I'm your person.
You're a good person, okay.
Commissioner Ambrose,
Here.
Commissioner Elliott,
Here.
Commissioner Firestein,
Here.
Commissioner Formaster,
Here.
Commissioner Weinstein,
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Campopiano,
Here.
and Chair Rousseau. Absent. Thank you.
Okay. Is special presentations. Our first presentation is an update from the Friends of San Clemente Beaches Park and Rec Foundation.
My name is John Dorey, and I am a director on the Friends of San Clemente Foundation. I was president for about 4 years, and I was also a beach and parks commissioner for about 6 years. So it's fun to come back and see it's still here. The Friends of San Clemente Foundation was formed with by Bill Thomas, who was one of your leaders at one time back in around 2000. And he started it basically to create an opportunity for the city to raise more funds for projects, special projects that they thought that they would like to build or help participate in, but the city did not have enough funds earmarked for those projects. And so he created this group. Since that time, we have given back over $650,000, I think, to the community. Part of it went to the Courtney Sandcastle, almost $250,000. And the other 400,000 or so has gone to such things as skate park for lights and park equipment. And just a plethora of things that you folks and the city council try to set aside opportunities for the community that we participate. Also, in addition to just things that you would see, we also support a lot of the programs that the city has, the Parks Department. Each year, we have averaged about $50,000 that we put back into the community. Your liaison here, Samantha, is our liaison, and the relationship that we have is very, very close. And there's always been, as far back as I can remember, me being the last, a person in this group that was on our committee. So one of the things I wanted to bring up this evening is that opportunity for you to pick somebody within your group to be on a board so that you can report back and say, do we have this much money? Is there a project that you're looking at, or is there something that we can do? And think about, maybe it might not be this year, but in 2 or 3 years that is important to us as a commission. And maybe we can start setting aside funds for that, and maybe they can be matched by the city or whatever, because our money doesn't come directly from the city, it comes from the people through programs that we put on. But that relationship, we'd like to keep that relationship. This is the first time we've ever been in this situation where we don't have that relationship on our board. And so I challenge you to find someone in this group who might want to do that. Things that what we do. The Springtacular that we put on every year, Sam puts on, we donate money to that. We donate money to the skateboard tournament each year. We donate money to the Cinco de Mayo programs. If there is movies in the park, or for a long time we also supported the beach concerts. And it goes on. We're putting on the carnival this week. A little bit running out of gas, I think, on my end because I've been out there so many times. But Thursday it starts. I hope you bring family or friends out to see it. It's a big moneymaker for us and in kind, the community becomes a participant because the money that we bring in goes back into the community. But that runs from Thursday until Sunday. Thursday, we have set aside time for the for autistic kids and small children who might want to participate with low volume and slower rides. And that goes from 2 o'clock until 6 o'clock, and then it opens at 6 to the public. On Thursday, it goes till 10. And then Friday goes 5 o'clock to 12 o'clock at night. And on Saturday goes from 12 noon until 12 o'clock at night. And then on Sunday it goes from 12 noon until 10 o'clock at night. And we have a strongman competition, just kind of a hood. Highland Games, a bunch of guys running around in short skirts, but you don't have to say that to them. Some very, very big, powerful, strong guys and women who are participating, carrying some large stones and drawing, I think they call it caber. And it's a lot of fun. It's very interesting. And that happens on Saturday and Sunday between 12 and 6 each day. I don't have, our president was supposed to come and give you a presentation. I got called to last minute because I had some sick family members. So the PowerPoint presentation that would have wowed you is not here today. So I don't have a lot more to tell you. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
No, my question was, the role of the liaison, is that working together with Samantha and your committee on projects or partnerships or fundraising or?
Well, we were all just board members, and then I became a commissioner. And so I just wore one hat when I was here and another hat that was there, but I always reported back at what was happening in our meetings to the commission. And I think that's basically it. And likewise, if there's something that the commission wanted to convey to our board as a wish or thought or a priority that they'd like the board to think about, they're right there in the room and they can talk about it, like any other board member, excuse me. So we're looking for somebody who wants to participate at the board level. I'd rather have them on the board, to be honest with you, and feel like they're part of it, and because we really are joined at the hip. We were designed to be that way.
It is more effective that way.
Pardon me?
I said it is more effective that way.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I don't know if you're aware, but just at our last meeting, we established a subcommittee to look at the ways that we can kind of investigate funding, sponsorships, things like that. So as you were talking, I was getting more and more concerned about the overlap that we probably are going to see there. Are there things that you would not fund if we wanted to go after sizable donations from companies? Do you see that in order to fund some big ideas we have for our parks? Is that something you would see?
They developed a whole nother group to do peer pride.
Right.
To handle the peers. So if you're looking at something of that size, then you can develop your own. Somebody can develop a group around that, a foundation around that.
So you don't see that as...
We basically provide funds for recreational programs.
Okay.
We provide the scholarships for kids who can't afford them. And the city can't use taxpayers' money to pay scholarships to kids to learn so that they learn how to swim. That's what we do. So we provide money at that level, about $50,000 or $60,000 a year. We're building a little bit of a cache of money right now because we've had some good luck with the carnival. Hopefully that will continue. And we've had some good donations from some large corporations in town. So with that in mind, we are building some money. So we can be tapped possibly to participate as a donor or a sponsor in the future, because I think we have some excess cash we could possibly set aside each. You know, we would look at it on a case-by-case basis. But our money right now is not geared towards anything specific until you as a group maybe identify something, and then we as a board say, yes, let's do that, and then we can work together to see if we can help that. That's what happened with, according to Sandcastle situation, where we eventually helped the community build it.
I have more of a comment than a question. I'm a soccer coach with kids with special needs, so I want to thank you guys very much for having autistic hours for kids and giving them an opportunity to enjoy the fair in a more comfortable setting for them. Please do that again, I really appreciate
No,
it.
we've been doing it, according to Sandcastle Foundation, basically came to us years ago and asked us to do that. And so we worked with them, we're just carrying it forward after they dissolved
Great.
last year.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Yes?
Just following up kind of in line with that, on your major sources of funding, then the carnival is one major source. And is most of the others local business donations, I mean, or you're not going out?
No, we look for local donations. We have a golf tournament in June, and then we have this carnival. And then we also make a little bit of money at, hopefully, from time to time, it's intermittent, at the skateboard contest in September. And up to that, other than that, we will see monies come in from local businesses that just want to give us $2,000 here or more. From time to
You
time.
are going out and looking for major corporate donors and other foundations and things like
We get
that.
some large corporate donors that give us a couple of grand here and there with the golf tournament to be a sponsor. But, I mean, it adds up to $6,000 to $8,000 from big corporate sponsors maybe a year out of that.
Yeah, just sort of following with that line of questioning, and then also comment is just, thank you for putting on that carnival. My kids love it. All three of them are going to be going this weekend.
And if you didn't get your tickets, shame on you.
We did, I learned that the hard way.
Yeah, get your tickets early. That's for everybody here. Next year, if you didn't get them at the Aquatic Center about 2 or 3, and now it's 3 or 4 weeks before the carnival starts, and you can get them for like half price.
Yeah, they love it. But my question sort of follows up on that. So say, like, because I know there's a lot that was in these park master plans that are going to be fairly expensive. Like there's an expansion of the skate park, there's a proposed pump track, et cetera. And if there was a big corporation that was interested in helping fund that, would they then kind of be pushed to partner with you guys on it, or would it be something separate, or how?
You can use us, is what I would say to your thought process about raising money. Because a lot of corporations just don't like to give money to cities, per se. But you can park it with us. We are a 501c3. We have taken money and for skate parks, the junior lifeguards, according to Sandcastle, before they became a 501c3, and a number of other groups in town that were starting up to do things or had a project in mind, but weren't set up to receive money and give that write-off back, which is what you might find is a hindrance for you as a city asking for money for a project. They can run it through us and possibly doing that get themselves a write-off for a fire. And then we in turn work in concert with you to put that money back. And the best person to comment on all of this is sitting right over here as to whether or not that's feasible. But that's the way I would probably think about it.
And my last question is just more curiosity. How much do you usually make from the carnivals? And what's your biggest fundraiser? Is that open?
Yeah, no, it's okay. We're not. It's not secret. They have raised the prices, so we have been the benefit of that because we get something off the top. So last year, we made about $70,000. Now, we have expenses on top of that, but still made us in excess of $60,000 net. And then we make about $20,000 to $25,000 in the golf tournament. And then we pick up some other, last year we made over $100,000. So before that, during the pandemic, I mean, we shut down, we couldn't give the money, any money to the city virtually because we just didn't have any money and we weren't making any money. So this has been good last year, and I think this year is going to be another good year. And as long as we can continue at that level, I think we can be a major supporter for Sam and what her group is trying to do. And maybe we can work together in some way to solve some of the problems that you see out there that we need funding for.
So this commission has some perspective on the relationship with the Friends, and I know this commission has a particular focus, as does the community, on the build out of Steed and the other sites that we've been talking about. The relationship with the Friends through Hermosa, because that's really the most relevant recent development. The Friends were basically given a list of amenities that they would go out, and John would remember this, they were given authority to fundraise or seek donations for water fountains. And maybe that water fountain only cost a certain amount of money, but because it was going to be in the name of such and such family, that price was increased, so that was a fundraising effort. And instead of the city doing the legwork on that, and again, as John mentioned, the city's not a 501c3, so that deduction looks very different for folks who are donating. The Friends were given authority to seek those donations and in return donate it back to the development of the sports park. The Friends were also really instrumental in the Sprinkles or Splash campaign for the build out of the aquatic center. Again, that was a really grassroots effort to get people to just donate to the pool. So that's where the Friends have come in. It's the relationship for decades has been the Friends are here to support Parks and Recreation, however that looks like. And the goal from the staff end is to kind of come up with those best methods. And I think leaning into the newly developed sponsorship subcommittee, that will be something that group can talk about and potentially work with the Friends to say, here's what we're looking for. Here's what we can give you authority to seek donations for. The Hermosa list was very expansive. It also included naming rights to all of the fields. And there was like the platinum premium sponsorship of the entire sports park. And that's what they were really gunning for. There was a want to make it Target, wanted Target to put some more money towards it. That never came to. But all of that was on the table, and that was all under the direction of the Friends to go out and seek that funding.
John, I want to thank you for your service on this commission and the Friends Foundation and the city as a whole. Where and when do the Friends meet?
We meet the third Thursday of each month. It's moved around a little bit, but right now we're meeting at the Outlet Center, shopping center, in their offices upstairs. It starts at 4 o'clock, goes from 4 to 5 basically. We don't usually get people in there, but it's not a private meeting, it's open to the public, people want to come and sit in. But generally speaking, it's just us trying to solve whatever's on our list of things to solve.
Is that the VIP lounge you're referring to?
Pardon me?
Is that the VIP lounge you're referring to over by Guest and Hillfiger?
It's a little, just a little, it's got one table in it that we sit around. It's very small. It's not where the chamber had their,
We do the soiree or
Yeah,
the
the-
Pure Pride meets there as well. It's that same space. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if we're voting or looking at this right now. I have a lot of nonprofit experience, and I've set them up, and I've closed them down, and I've sat in every facility or position from doing the directorship myself and doing the treasury, et cetera, trying to get clients and trying to get money and all that. So if this committee is willing to, or this commission is willing to have me represent them, I would throw my hat in the ring for that position.
We will agendize it for the next meeting. That's going to be the best way to go about it. You'll find it on the agenda under the subcommittees moving forward, and we can talk about it then.
Okay, great.
Any other questions?
Nothing?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for what you do. I've done it for 6 years. It's a lot of fun. Enjoy it.
All right, thank you so much. Next up, we have a City of San Clemente Shoreline Monitoring Program presentation from Cecilia.
Hi, welcome. Well, I'm not going to be giving the presentation. I have a special guest here who will, but I'm Cecilia Gallardo-Daly, the Community Development Director for the city. And we were fortunate enough to receive a grant from the California Coastal Commission to look at a nature-based feasibility study that would give us some ideas or pilot projects for addressing sand erosion and sand retention on our beaches. As part of that coastal resiliency feasibility study, we need to do shoreline monitoring. And I've got Greg here from Coastal Frontiers, and this is a resumption of the city's coastal monitoring program that had been going on previously. So Greg is here to explain more to you about our program, what it is intended to do, some of the historical data we've received, and what we plan on doing with it. So he's got a PowerPoint and he'll walk you through everything. Is it moving?
This looks like it is moving.
Where's my
How do you want to control this? Is it something up here or?
Tell me, and I will switch it for you.
Perfect, let's go to the first slide. since it's the first
It
one.
wants to do that anyways.
Samantha, I can sit there because
I'm going to pull a chair
I
Don't you
can't
worry.
see very well here.
up. Do you want to?
Yeah, I'll just sit
Here.
there.
I'll give you this
Good for my
chair.
bad eyes anyway. So-
Here, I got a chair for you. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going with font that's a little small. I wasn't sure if the screen was good.
And then I'll move it forward.
Just the arrows. Yep, you got it.
Yeah, you want to go up too? Okay, so again, I'm here to speak with you today about your shoreline monitoring program, which is getting underway really right now. And as Cecilia said, it's building upon a program that we worked with the city on about 15, 20 years ago, which we'll also talk about today. Next, please. So I want to just give some background information, a lot of which you're probably already familiar with, but it seems like a good entry point for what to talk about today. And then we'll get into the monitoring program itself, the schedule, and then I thought it might be nice to end with some findings from the last program that we did with you guys. So the study area, of course, is the city of San Clemente, and our zone of interest, it goes from Doheny State Beach in the north to Cotton's Point in the south. And San Clemente's in the larger Oceanside littoral cell, which we can think about as a closed physiographic unit where it's not really communicating sand, say north of Dana Point or south of La Jolla in the south. But we can get a good handle on sediment sources, sediment sinks, transport paths, and create budgets of sediment and understand what's happening with the beaches there. Like most Southern California beaches in San Clemente, the predominant direction of sand transport is from north to south. We do get reversals, short-term and longer-term, particularly in a place like San Clemente that gets so much south swell. Also, there's cross-shore transport with the energetic winter waves, typically stripping sand from the above-water beach, putting it out into near-shore bars, and that process being reversed in the summer with the more quiescent conditions, bringing the sand from the bars up to the above-water beach. So in consequence, you typically have your widest beaches about now at the end of the summer season, and the narrowest at the end of the winter season, say in May. You've got a very complex wave climate here. You get northern hemisphere swell, southern hemisphere swell, local seas, complicated by sheltering and refraction diffraction from Point Conception and all of the offshore islands in the area. So it's a very complicated environment to assess wave conditions in. You can have multiple norths and souths happening at the same time in any given part of the year.
Water levels, you have semi-diurnal tides, so 2 highs and 2 lows each day of varying magnitude. And the water levels typically follow the tide predictions quite well unless there's some anomaly going on. And that might be a short-term storm surge. And it's nothing like we see in the Gulf or the East Coast where you get these hurricane-driven storm surges of several feet. Where on the West Coast, it's typically pretty small, half a foot to a foot at the most. But during El Nino years, we get sustained elevated water levels, maybe a half a foot or a foot that can persist for months. So in some ways, it's a preview of sea level rise during those El Nino years. Sea level rise itself, your closest long-term NOAA tide gauge is down in La Jolla. It's got about 100 years worth of data. And the sea level rise trend there is about 0.7 feet per century. So that's what has happened. It's not what is being projected with a lot of these accelerated sea level rise curves and projections that are really driving a lot of the planning operations and design on the coast today. Next slide, please. So the shoreline monitoring program is designed to measure changes in the shore zone. And that's basically from the back of the beach out to beyond the depth of closure. That's about where waves and currents aren't really moving sand around anymore. We'll see in some profiles, the profiles kind of pinch out. So we want to measure those changes and evaluate the impact of human intervention, such as beach nourishment projects or natural events like El Ninos, or on longer time scales as sea level rise. So we've used the program. The program builds on prior efforts. We talked about the prior city program, which was the early 2000s, but there's also some work done by the Corps of Engineers and Scripps that we were involved with as well in the 1980s, kind of precipitated by the big 1982-83 El Nino. So we have some historical data that we're going to be able to leverage here. And we've used these data to look at, to support the Corps' nourishment project, opportunistic nourishment at North Beach. We used it for helping design the access ways for the coastal trails, the sheet pile seawall at the Marine Safety Building about 20 years ago. And as Cecilia mentioned, it's going to be used to leverage our knowledge for this nature-based adaptation project that is getting going now as well. So, that's perfect. It's perfect timing. That's on the right shows the 12 sites that we're going to be monitoring for this program. Doheny,
There's a pause.
one down. Yes, so Doheny, State Beach in the north, Cotton's in the south. We mentioned the Coast of California Storm and Tidal Wave study by the Corps in the 80s. The blue lines here, blue dashed lines, come from that study. And so have data going back to the 1980s, some of them a little bit further. And the red lines were established specifically for the city in 2001 as part of the prior program. So the program that we're doing now today is funded through 2025. It will be these same 12 sites, fall and spring surveys corresponding to the beginning and end of the winter wave season. So again, we're trying to capture the beaches at the widest in the fall and the narrowest in the spring. Okay, next.
One question.
Yes.
What is the anachronism on the top? CCSTWF?
Coast of California Storm and Tidal Wave Study for the San Diego region. It's a project that was initiated by the Corps after the 82.
Want to write that down, please?
Coast of California Storm and Tidal Waves Study
Okay.
for the San Diego region. And you guys get put in the San Diego region because you're in the ocean side mineral cell.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, next slide, please. So that brings, next is what type of surveys are we doing? We're doing what we call beach profile surveys, and effectively that's measuring a cross-section of the beach at a given time. We do that with two separate crews. There's a group on the beach with your standard survey equipment and a rod person with a prism on that rod working his way out through the surf zone, taking data. We'll get out a little bit beyond the surf zone in about 15 feet of water. And then we have the boat portion here, which starts out in about 45 feet of water, well beyond that depth of closure that we talked about, the outer edge of this littoral cell. And he'll work into just outside of the surf zone using a GPS and a precision depth sounder. And we get overlap between the two, and they need to match up. If they don't, then we did something wrong. Next, please. So here's an example of some of those beach profiles. This is the transect at T Street. And you can see, I don't have a pointer, but you can see up on the shallow part of this from the back beach out to depths of maybe 10 to 15 feet is where most of the action's happening here. This summer-winter oscillation between above water erosion and formation of nearshore bars and reversal. The jagged area here is the reef off there at T Street, and once you get offshore of that jagged area, you can see all those profiles are pretty well pinched together, so that's where the waves and currents aren't really moving sand around. That's kind of the offshore boundary of the active littoral zone. And from this, we can calculate mean sea level beach widths, volume of sand above mean sea level, volume out to the depth of closure, which we call the shore zone volume, and keep track of those numbers and try to understand what's happening with the beaches. Next, please. So we've started with your current program already, kind of reoccupying and reestablishing those transects. As you can imagine, if you leave some marks out on sidewalks or on rocks 15 years later, they have a way of disappearing through public works or vandalism and any number of things. So we've reestablished those. And the first survey is going to happen here as soon as we get a good weather window, maybe when the south swell dies down a little bit, give us maybe a 2 or 3 day window to get in here and safely do the survey. Future surveys fall on a spring basis to stay seasonally consistent. Okay. So this, I just wanted to share with you briefly some results from the last program, and that'll kind of set the stage for when we get together in the future and talk about current findings. So remember, we have the data from the Coast of California Storm and Tidal Wave Study in the 80s, and also the city program from the early part of the 2000s. So we'll look at the range of beach widths, some long-term changes, and what I've called program error changes. That's in that San Clemente zone. So you notice the dates don't quite match up there. It's because I'm trying to be seasonally consistent. So I'm ending everything on fall 2006 survey, which is the last fall survey we have. And the start of those long-term changes at 1986 is because that's the first survey I have where I have the same data set for all of my locations. Okay, next. So this is showing beach widths in the study area. The gray shaded area is the range of measured beach widths over the entire period, so the 1980s to 2006. And the red line is where we were in 2006. So you can see on the right-hand side of the Doheny areas where we had the widest beaches. We also have the biggest fluctuation of range of beach widths, and that's probably because it's up by San Mateo Creek and gets influx of sediment every now and then. And in 2006, we were kind of at the lower end of that range, so the more eroded of the historical range. As we move into Capo and San Clemente proper, the range of fluctuations is much smaller. And we can see that red line's kind of lying towards the middle or upper end of that range. So at the time of the fall 2006 survey, we were actually at reasonably wide beaches, historically speaking.
Is your beach width, are you referring to like the mean height tide line to that depth of closure, or are you just saying where the sand starts and ends?
So, great question. So that's from the back of the beach, and like a lot of places that'll be a revetment or say a sidewalk, something like that, out to where the profile intersects the plane of mean sea level. So it's where if the tide was at mean sea level and the water was just a lake, where does that hit in the sand? So it's pretty much your dry beach. So this plot, we're looking at long-term changes from fall of 86, and go up one and jumped on one. Fall of 86 to fall 2006, so I'm staying seasonally consistent here. Doheny on the right, Cotton's on the left, so it's like you're standing on the beach looking offshore. Red areas are showing erosion, green is showing accretion, so you can see in the Doheny area we lost as much as 100 feet of beach in that 20-year period. As we move further to the south, the changes are much more muted, about 25 feet of change over those periods. Let's move to the next slide. So this is a more recent period, fall 2001 to fall 2006. So at the Doheny area, pretty modest changes, which tells me that most of those happened pretty early on, maybe in the 80s or 90s. And then as we move into the San Clemente area, particularly by the Pier Bowl, we had actually a lot of beach width growth in the early 2000s, as much as 40, 45 feet in that area. Next slide. On this slide, we're looking at a time series of beach widths, specifically at T Street. So we're going from 1983 to 2007, and you can see the sawtooth pattern. So the wider beaches happening in the fall, the narrower beaches happening in the summer. But you see this trend from the 80s to the early 2000s of beach width loss. And then now we're about to find out where we are today. So that's the beauty of having all this historical data. After the first survey in the next couple weeks, we're going to know exactly where we stand, almost 20 years later. What's unfortunate is missing is these gaps in here, because we missed a lot of stuff. We missed two of the three largest El Niños that have occurred in California. So we don't really know how the beach responded to those and how it recovered from those. So that kind of goes to, I guess a soapbox a little bit. It's balancing science and budget. So we found that if you can have a program that's sustainable over the long term, it really pays dividends in helping you understand your beaches and make decisions, rather than going out and just throwing everything at it for a year or two. It'd be great to go out there every month and hit 100 sites, but that's not really sustainable in the long term. Whereas Sandag in San Diego has had a comparable program for 27 years now. And the next slide is the pretty pictures questions slide.
No questions.
So at our last meeting, we heard from Kyle over in the city about the core San Francisco project. He was thinking at that time that would happen starting about September of next year. So it sounds like with what you're able to do now, would you say you would be able to get several data points for that point?
Yeah, so we're
then monitor it after that as well?
Exactly. So we're going fall and spring, right? So we'll certainly get 2 in before that. That's going to give us a great baseline, or a good enough baseline to say, okay, now we can measure the impact or the outcome of that project relative to right before the sand went on the beach. And then we can keep track of it as the project evolves. The sand will go on the beach, it'll start spreading out.
And did I hear you say you expect we will have funding, or we will have the capability to do this from?
It's funded through 2025.
25?
Yeah. So I think that's like 6 surveys.
And who is this funded by?
It's funded by the city through a grant.
Yeah, it's a grant from the California Coastal Commission to study sea level rise and do coastal resiliency planning and adaptation.
When we did the work in the early 2000s for the city, it was used as in-kind services for the Corps of Engineers project. So those projects are always part funded by the local entity and part by the federal government. So you guys use that as part of your monies for that.
I have a couple of questions. So the first is about reporting. So you said mentioned that you're going to be going out soon to survey. When would the report be expected, and will that report be available to the public and to our commission to look at? So I'm sure everyone's going to be excited about the findings.
So you may want to jump in on this, but I can't remember if we're doing just fall reports or fall and spring.
I can't recall
But
either, but
I know there's a fall.
yeah.
So there'll be a fall report that comes out, and it's a pretty brief, to keep the cost down. It's going to be a pretty brief letter report, but we always want to keep some information in there, some beach widths and some graphics, just to know, okay, this is where we are right now. This is what's happened in the last year for you guys to know. And then we're also scheduled to come give you guys a presentation once a year, and we'll go through something like this, but with more data to, hey, this is what the program is about.
And my second question is, if you're going to coordinate it all with, I think it's Dr. Brett Sanders and UC Irvine, he's been doing a lot of drone surveys. I think about San Clemente State Beach and at Doheny, and I know he's pulling together some data. So is that going to be married at all or mentioned?
I think they're very complementary type of programs. We've spoken with Brett over the last year or so about how we could share data and leverage these two data sets. What Brett's doing is pretty much all above water. And he's doing all above water at a higher frequency, maybe probably more times per year. What he doesn't have is the offshore piece of this. And so when we're talking about shores on volumes, you know, what's happening on the above water beach should be driven by what's happening in this entire shore zone, right? You can't just create beach up top. You have to have the foundation offshore, so to speak, too. So if you're getting more sand into the system and you're tracking the shore zone volume increasing, you should be seeing your beach widths increase, and vice versa. So we're getting the piece offshore to help understand that. So as you can see, on that profile, the above water piece was this much and the offshore piece was that much. So there's a lot that happens out there that drives what we see above water too.
Okay, and then my last question has to do with the beach substrate itself, and are you going to be doing any sort of pebble counts or some things that looking at the grain size on the beach and how that might be changing over time, because that's also quite important for the citizens prefer beach sand and not cobble and not
Yeah,
big
so
rocks.
that's typically not something that comes out of the beach profile survey. I would say that we help the city and the lifeguards actually still do this, a beach width measurement program, that they go out monthly and measure beach widths with a tape. It's not as accurate, but it adds a lot of great information. I would think that would be the time to do that, and there's actually some citizen science tools that are just coming out now where you can use your phone and take a picture of stuff and it'll give you the grain size of it. So that would be like an interesting thing, not to saddle, I know Rod Malott, your marine safety captain's not here, not to saddle him with that, but that would be probably a really good way to add to something like that.
Okay. Yeah, because I just know that is, you know, from what I hear from people, or beaches are turning to rock, and they don't like that because it's not comfortable to recreate
Oh, I
on
agree.
rock, so.
Hopefully the core project will remedy some of that.
Some of that, yeah. No, I appreciate that. I also want to comment just about what you said about funding and probably, I mean, when Susan and I were working on the coastal advisory committee, we had advocated to the city to restart their monitoring of the beaches because we knew that wasn't happening. So I would really appreciate that. We got grant money and we were able to restart it. So that's fantastic.
We're super excited to be involved with you guys doing this again.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you to this commission because, I mean, I give you credit for these next steps because when we came to you all maybe 2 years ago to talk about the findings of the sea level rise vulnerability assessment and then the coastal resiliency plan, you really welcomed the information but said, okay, now what? You know, these are all good ideas. We can't just sit on it. What do we do next? You know, what are our next steps? What can we do now? And we heard you loud and clear. And when we took the coastal resiliency plan to the council, we made a commitment to look at doing some implementation. And at the same time, we had this grant opportunity from the Coastal Commission to take those ideas in the coastal resiliency plan and step forward. And we probably wouldn't have done it if it hadn't been for your support and ideas and encouragement. So thank you very much.
Well, you know, I'd like to extend our invitation to you anytime to come and update us. And I think the information that you just shared, I remember that the assessment study that you came with, we were in the chambers, the council chambers at the time, and I remember it being very lengthy but very detailed. Jeremy, you remember how many questions we asked, and you've had such a good dialogue with us. I think that's what caused us to really write some actual suggestions to you, and I know that you implemented several of them. So I think that was an honor for us to be involved in that. And I think everybody who's listening to you and is supportive of Clean Beaches, Clean Oceans really wants to be part of and responsible and accountable to help you get this finished with some feedback and input. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you for having me.
All right, moving on is our approval of minutes. Oh, we have two sets of minutes. Okay. So first is the minutes from the August 9th, 2022 Beaches Park and Rec Commission meeting.
I would approve the August 9th minutes.
Second.
Okay. Thank you very much. All in favor? Okay. Moving on to the second August 30th minutes.
I'll move to approve August 30th minutes.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Okay.
Sorry, that was a motion by Commissioner Elliott and a second by Commissioner Weinstein, is that correct? Thank you.
I think I have to abstain in this. I did not attend that meeting.
Yeah, I abstained from it too, I didn't vote.
Yeah. And Jermaine, you didn't go to the
I-
meeting either.
I did not go to
Joint meeting.
You were there. No, I was not. I was the
Joint meeting.
joint at the, no, I was only there at the beginning before, and I had to leave.
Right, but isn't this the minutes for the joint meeting?
There were 3 of us present.
Yeah. So
So I'm
we need to
abstaining.
abstain.
Yes.
Thank you, go ahead, I got it, thank you.
All right, next, moving on, item 3, to oral communications. This is where we're going to be doing the
Yeah, you have one speaker
All
for
right, one speaker, Sanji. Do you have timers?
I do have a timer. Just tell me what you need first.
Yeah,
Does that work?
The master plan slide.
Okay, let's see.
Do you want to do the second one now too?
Yeah, and then if you want to tell me the second one.
Second one will be the soccer agreement, and the last will be the video.
Okay, let me say thank you very much. Okay, hang on one second. I just want to make sure they're all in my finger. Oh.
It's
Is
in
there
your
a
packet
packet
too,
too?
if you can't read that.
Oh, I see it. I'm so sorry. This one.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's not your practice.
Okay. Good evening. At your last meeting, I provided you some.
Hang on one second. I'm so sorry. Let me start right now. Ready? Okay, here we go. Go ahead.
Good evening. At your last meeting, I provided you some history on Sanjeev, but I failed to mention that when Sanjeev was going through its planning stage, residents of the area were told by the parks planner, Mr. Johnston, that parking overflow might happen 2 or 3 times a year. This is the master plan. And basically, it says that our Centennial Master Plan clearly states that BPNR consider the impacts of such facilities on surrounding areas. It is not limited to size of park. Slide 2 is the elite soccer agreement which you have. Of note is 7.3. City parks with athletic fields have limited parking. Now, San Gregorio is the only one of the 4 parks being utilized that the only ingress and egress is off of a 40-foot wide residential street. Item 7.4, in an effort to reduce the impact on parking and congestion in the parks, the city will limit the number of rental permits on weekends and during league play and summer months. 7.5, when scheduled at neighborhood park fields, Elite must coordinate game schedules to reduce overlap of game times and allow for adequate time between games for players leaving the game to vacate parking spaces for those that are coming in. So has the city decided that Sanjeev does not qualify as a neighborhood park, even though it is the only one of the 4 that requires all vehicles to enter off of a small residential street? The size of the park should not be criteria for safe conditions.
Elite Soccer schedules up to 6 simultaneous games in San G. That is 12 teams, plus coaches, plus grandparents, and anybody else. That number alone exceeds the on-site parking within, and that doesn't include all the activities that San G offers. Obviously, it has to create congestion in the park and in the neighborhood. Video, please. San G does not have a through sidewalk, and as you can see, families are forced to walk in the middle of a jam-packed residential street, and one of your commissioners can attest to this. Park overflow onto the Via San Gregorio creates unsafe conditions for pedestrians and residents. My concerns have fallen on deaf ears with staff. Who would have thought that it's up to you to bring safety and quality of life? I ask you to require BPNR comply with the City Centennial Master Plan and to amend the Elite Soccer's agreement that it limit the number of simultaneous games based on on-site parking availability and allow for adequate time between games for players leaving the games to vacate parking spaces for those that are coming in. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
I'm just thinking about those items and where it's in our packet.
I can get them to you. Which items did you want them to have?
I gave them the entire Elite Soccer agreement,
The agreement.
which needs to be amended or enforced.
I don't think they have that.
Well, Miley said she put it in the packet, it's 12 pages.
We've gone through each section.
I will make sure they get it. I can email it to them. That's okay? Is
That's
that all right?
perfect, thank you.
I will email it to the commission, okay? I'm so sorry.
No problem. All right, that was our only comment. We will close oral communications and move on to community activities and updates. And Samantha, give us.
I'm going to sit that down. Okay. Okay. Good evening, commissioners. I'm Samantha Wiley, Beaches Parks and Recreation Director. This is a kind of routine report and wanted to fill you on where we've been since we last met. We hosted a movie in the park, and we had several hundred people come to it. We featured Encanto. You can see we had a guest character there as well. Fun on the Run provided free games for kids in the back, and it was a really great atmosphere, and we know our community members really showed up and enjoyed it. And then we hosted our SC Open Skate Contest in September as well. This is an annual event. This is the 21st annual skate contest where we bring all of our local skateboarders out to the skate park to give them the one-time-a-year tournament at this facility. And you can see that they got some pretty cool swag. We had some really incredible sponsors that donated all of our supplies and our gear, and they get really pumped up about it, so it was great to have them there. And then upcoming, we've got a full docket of events. As John Dory mentioned, we've got the carnival coming up this weekend at the Vista Hermosa Meadows, followed by Pumpkin Splash. That's a city event that will be at the San Clemente Aquatic Center, where we throw pumpkins in the pool and they float, and kids swim with them. And it's great fun if you're little. So we encourage everyone to come out. There is an admission fee, but commissioners are always welcome to join and come by and check out the fun. Following that, we are hosting the annual Red Ribbon Parade and National Night Out event. This is the first time that we're combining these two events, working with OCSD and San Clemente Police Services. This will take place at the community center. The parade will start around 4 o'clock. If you've never been to it, it's an all-hands-on-deck effort with our local schools. They all march in the parade. They wear red. They have banners. They make loud noises. And they march from the top of Del Mar down to the community center. The Triton Marching Alliance is involved in that, leading the way along with OCSD motors and deputies on patrol. OCFA is involved, as well as the dance team and the cheerleaders. and all of our athletes come out as well from the high school. And then it will land here at the community center, and we're excited to present National Night Out, which is going to be a focus on safety for the community. All of our public safety bodies will be on hand, as I mentioned, the Sheriff's Department as well as the Fire Authority. These California State Park officials will be here as well. They have a law enforcement body, and their lifeguards will be here. Our Marine Safety Division will be on deck. We'll have park rangers and the animal shelter will be here. We've got some community sponsors as well that are also getting behind this effort to make folks feel comfortable and safe in San Clemente. There's some pretty cool demos scheduled as well. OCFA will have a demo with the arson dog, Freedom will be here, and then OCSD will have the entire fleet of everything, SWAT and all of the fun things that kids love to see, the big vehicles. So that will be here at the community center. It's free. We are providing Chick-fil-A and Kona Ice for free for the first 500 people who come. So dinner and a treat at the end. Chick-fil-A sponsored it, and so is Kona Ice as well. So we're excited about that. That'll be 4 to 7 on the 24th. Following immediately next Saturday, we have the 29th is our first annual Monster Dash 5K. This is the first event for the city that we're running, and it's a costume run. It's a 5K that will start here at the community center, and it will head down to Linda Lane Park. You will go all the way down through the park, jump on the beach trail, go north on the beach trail, cut up at the beach club, and then run south down ECR, taking you right back here down Del Mar. So if you're a runner or a walker or a just casual stroller person, you're welcome to join that. And we encourage costumes. There will be a costume contest. If you don't want to do 3 miles or the 5K, you can do the creepy crawl, which is just up Del Mar and back down. And you still get the pancake breakfast at the end of it. So again, costumes are encouraged. And we are hoping to make this a really exciting annual event for the community. And the Friends have sponsored that as well. And we also have Sprouts has become a community sponsor, as well as Zebra Coffee House. And then Fisherman's will be providing the pancake breakfast. Pancake breakfast is included with the race registration. And you can also purchase an additional breakfast on site. We'll have live music and games and all kinds of fun. That will go to about 11 o'clock here at the community center.
Samantha, quick question. Will you be closing out the trail to just average walkers?
No, we're not closing the trail. I am against that. We try to avoid that. So we feel that it'll be paced enough. I mean, that trail sees a huge volume of folks anyway, so they'll be paced in a pretty good manner. We will have some of our staff will be course marshals, will be on golf carts and kind of riding through to make sure that there is that safety element
Do
as
you have
well.
to sign up for it?
Yes, registration's open. It's on the city's website. You go to the city's website to our event calendar. Our poster and all of our registration is online right now, and so we're doing kind of a big push to get people here. It's timed race. You'll get a bib. It's a chip race and all of those good things. So hopefully everyone can come out.
Great.
If there's any questions, you guys are.
Is there a fee?
Yes, there's an early bird fee. Right now it's $25 to enter the 5K. Everybody gets a t-shirt with that, as well as the pancake breakfast. And Sprouts is donating a whole bunch of fresh produce to keep people energized and healthy. And then it does go up on the day of its $31 because Halloween's October 31st. So that's the day of registration. Our creepy crawl is $13 right now, and then it goes up to $18 on the day of. And that's all ages.
Great event.
Any other questions?
Excited about that.
Yeah, we're excited about it. It's been a heavy lift, but I think this community loves Halloween. I have that feeling. So
Can we volunteer to help?
yeah, we love volunteers. If you want to volunteer, there's a link to volunteer, register to volunteer as well on that same site. That's free. You get a free t-shirt as well. You get to eat the pancake breakfast also. If you'd rather not run, that's okay. And we'd love to have volunteers also.
Okay, great, thank you.
And then that takes us right into the holiday season. We kick off December with Santa's Village by the Sea on December 3rd. That again is our annual holiday event. It's here at the community center, but we do close down Del Mar in partnership with the Downtown Business Association. The streets are closed, the shops are open late, Santa is here, Mrs. Claus is here. We will do a tree lighting. Typically, the tree lighting is between 5 and 5:30, it depends on sunset. The tree will be here on the corner, and we are just excited to have the Snow Hill back. The Friends Foundation is sponsoring that again. They are a major donor in that piece, and that's a very beloved component for this community. And then we will again bring back Sunsets with Santa. That is another free event on the end of the pier where Santa sits in front of the holiday tree for this time frame, and it's around 3 o'clock to sunset. The concessionaire will be open and serving winter-like beverages, and Santa will be there for free photos with kids. And then we'll be having carolers and stuff like that rotate through as well. Any questions on any of that?
Well, not to be the Debbie Downer, but tomorrow night, isn't there an event being held here at the community center too for human trafficking?
Yeah, that's not on my list of
That's
things
not,
to do.
that's not on the city?
But you're welcome. It's a public safety event. This is specific to recreation.
Okay.
Okay. We can't do anything else in the next.
Well, that's what
3
you
months.
did, you outdid yourself, that was really great.
Okay, I think that's it.
I've got a question if you don't mind.
Yes.
And will there be opportunities for people to make donations? Like, are you gonna have little pumpkins out that they can make contributions to encourage further events, et cetera?
Yeah, the Friends, I'm hoping the Friends will be there, and that is really, as you heard John say, that's really their hope and function is to be that event donor piece. And big events like this, we've budgeted for it, but to make it bigger and better, we do need that funding. That's why the Friends are kind of shoring up some of those gaps for us. But that would be the Friends, we typically take donations. Okay.
Environmental services update? Do you have anything?
Yeah, I have a brief update. I'm working with Commissioner Ambrose on this. This is the coastal cleanup day results, and I will summarize that so everyone can see it as well. So for San Clemente 2022, the pier had 172 volunteers, and they collected 179.2 pounds of trash. T Street had 115, collecting 281.5 pounds of trash. Calafia saw 54 volunteers with 108 pounds of trash, totaling 341 volunteers with 568.7 pounds of trash. So really good turnout again this year, and there's a couple other data points here I will go through. I think that's the same. It's a little different. It's under recap. And I think that sums it up. Any questions on any of that?
How often is this held?
Annually,
Oh, just
yeah,
annually?
about the same time of year, every year. I do want to say on the water quality numbers and that data, I did receive it from Dave Rubensdorf, our utilities director. It's a lot of data, so I'm working to simplify it and kind of put it out. Once I get that, we will put that document online. In the meantime, I want the commission to know and members of the public that there is a really nice water quality report out, always on the city's website. It's off of the city's homepage. If you look at the beach camera or the surf camera, there's a link that also says weather. And if you click on that, it's going to tell you the exact, and it's from the county, it's going to tell you the water quality readings, and it'll be red, green, or yellow. And it's very explanatory and really puts it in very palatable terms for people that don't really know what they're reading normally. So that is a resource available.
And so Samantha, did you look to see, like since our last meeting, if there was any exceedances at any of our locations?
It was over 1,200 lines and rows of an Excel document. And it was all of Orange County. So that was 1,200 San Clemente. I have to get into it further. I didn't get it until late Friday, so.
And we're making progress.
We are making progress. I have the document, and as soon as it's up, we will get it on the website, and I'll share a link with this group through an email as well.
But I'm so glad you brought up the water quality that's available right now on the city website. It's very informative. So for those of you who don't have that experience in water quality and the things that we've done before in coastal advisory, you look at a lot of information and it'll give you a good education as to what's going on, about water quality and to look for, and all of the kinds of things, and background history of different beaches, et cetera. So, you know, it's a good read. It's informative.
Okay, moving on. Old business, doesn't look like we have anything. So item 6, new business. First up is the aquatics partnership application review for San Clemente Aquatics.
I do have one speaker card, but I'm happy to give my report if you would prefer first.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, Commission. Tonight is a first review of an aquatics partnership application. This commission is new to these application and this process. It is from the San Clemente Aquatics team. They are a long-standing partner of ours, and they are a great partner at that, working very well with staff. They pay their bills on time, and they are responsive from an administrative level, which is always a win. The contents of the staff report really explain the purpose of the partnership. The policy is in there. I do want to note that the aquatics partnership process as well as the sports partnership process is something that's on the work plan to be looked at and reviewed and potentially revised. And we will get to that later on in our agenda to appoint a subcommittee. A couple nuances with this particular application. SCAT has been a long-standing partner, as I said, dating back, and Jan might know specifically, but at least to the 80s, SCAT has been around, utilizing the beach club in various forms. So again, they've really been the huge swim team, public swim team, competitive swim team for youth in San Clemente for decades. Coming out of COVID, they were one of our only partners that was able to abide by all of the various rules that were set in place by the state that we would then had to reiterate and enforce at our facility. They really were an incredible partner in that process, making sure that their parents and kids understood the getting in the pool, out of the pool. I mean, it was like a machine of swimmers in and out. And so staff really appreciate that and value that. The numbers have, enrollment for them has, it's still within the over 300 level, but they're not quite making the 90% residency requirement. You'll see they're at 89.6 or so, so they're really close. Nonetheless, as the policy states, it has to be 390% residency. That is why the staff recommendation is to recommend senior partnership for 1 year as opposed to 3 years, with the intent that staff will work with the leadership and executive team of SCAT to figure out how we can get better numbers, get more kids and swimmers into their program locally, and get those percentage points up just by a hair. And I think that does the best service to that organization to continue their senior partnership as they have been for so long. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any, or you're welcome to hear from the speaker. Yes?
A couple. One, so is the intent that you're granting it for 1 year, and then looking at that with these possible extensions and seeing if that percentage then goes up to the 90, and that would help?
That's correct, yeah. So our goal would be to meet quarterly with the board or the head coach of the swim team to figure out some methods that we could help them get there. And then at that 1 year mark, hopefully they get over that 90% threshold. They always have been in the past, so I really think this is a fallout from the pandemic, truly. So if at that 1 year mark they're still not there, that again, we can come back to the commission and assess it. Or again, I feel strongly that the city has a good relationship with the organization to come together to figure out the best move forward. But that's the goal. If they get there at 1 year, then we would go ahead and execute the next year and then the next year after that.
And then one other follow-up question. Just because, of course, the availability of lanes and the pools seem to be quite an issue. And what is the volume of lane use that this organization ends up kind of using generally of the available lane use?
Yeah, so SCAT, for their agreement that exists today, they get 8 lanes during their practices. The pool has a total of 17 lanes. So they have a significant piece of that pie, if you will. They don't always use all of those 8 lanes, and they will give them back, as do our field partners as well. Again, in light of the really limited operating hours and the premium space that the pool has become, we've set some pretty strict guidelines on minimum number of swimmers per lane, and when we release those lanes, if you don't have those swimmers, what does that look like? And if there's a consistent miss on the number of swimmers per lane, or they're not using lanes, then staff have the conversation to say, well, next month you're not going to get, you're not going to get 8 lanes because you didn't demonstrate the need. We're going to slide you to 7 until you can demonstrate that need. So that is tracked
We do that regularly.
on a monthly basis. My staff track attendance for all of the lanes all the time, and we've got a chart that records that.
Any questions? No? All right, and I'll make a motion then that we just park.
Do you want to hear from the
Oh,
speaker?
sorry, yes, we do, I'm so sorry, yes. We will,
I mean, you had to win, you had the sale, but that's okay.
What's that? Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna, Jan?
Jan.
Jan.
Do you want to put me on the timer? And tell
I
me
will.
to go?
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the Beaches, Parks, and Recreation Commission. My name is Jan DeFederic, and I'm the current president of San Clemente Aquatics. The purpose of my presentation this evening is to reiterate our vested interest in our senior partnership. But more importantly, thank you for the undying support over the last 48 years. So to clarify, 48 years has been the partnership. Whether we've been in a senior partnership in that time frame or not, in the early days, more than likely not, but we have served the community in that time frame. The journey's been long, and the club has been better for it thanks to the support of this commission and prior commissions. I'm going to share in some of these sound bites over the next couple of minutes. I know you just heard about the operational details from Ms. Wiley, so I'm going to kind of focus on other avenues and other areas that the club has been successful over the years. No matter what time in history you view, our swim club has served as a center for all kinds of levels, from water safety to national level swimmers. Over the years, our student athletes have performed at different levels based on their desires and skill sets, while some have become elite student athletes and put our community on the map nationally. Over the years, our athletes have developed their skills in the pool, first and many years ago at Ole Hansen Beach Club, and ultimately now at Vista Hermosa. Many have gone on to participate in athletics and academics alike in numerous Division I universities: Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, Arizona, Kentucky, Georgia Tech, just to name a few. Many of our athletes have gone on to become doctors, lawyers, businessmen, architects, artists, and other professions that have created a legacy in our community. I share this not because I'm bragging, although I am bragging a little bit about our club. I want to take a moment to do that. But I really want to highlight that we focus on the entire individual, from swimming to academics to leadership. Our system is curated to be a well-rounded person. This is consistently expected of our coaches through communication and goal-setting sessions. Many make their way and get back to the sport or even come back to San Clemente. That's very special and unique and should make us all proud. Speaking of giving back, I'm personally here because I want to give back to the sport and community that I love. Swimming is not my main profession, but having swum in 2 Olympics and having been involved in the sport for the last 42 years in one capacity or another, there is no greater satisfaction than seeing our young student athletes succeed, hence my involvement. Over the last 2.5 years, we endured numerous obstacles during the pandemic, but we persevered thanks to the collaboration and motivation of the staff. We worked together to find commonalities while we re-entered normalcy. And while this wasn't easy, we found opportunities to create something out of nothing. It didn't happen overnight, but our club is better today versus the pre-pandemic days. Now that you've heard from Ms. Wiley, we intend to expand on this partnership through additional collaborative efforts, and will continue to set forth experiences for our young athletes should you afford us the opportunity to continue our senior partnership. Our intentions have been and always will continue to serve this community. I appreciate listening over the last few minutes and available to answer any questions that you may have for me. Thank you very much.
You did.
Good.
Hey, can I ask a question? In the write-up, it mentions something about you would be interested in helping with capital improvements if the opportunity came up. So do we have capital improvements identified for the Aquatic Center? Or do we always have capital improvements?
Yes, to the second part. Some of the projects we've looked at, there's nothing specifically identified with our existing CIP program. But one of the projects is something like the scoreboard. That is something the swim team actually donated when we opened the pool. It's dated. It could use a facelift and a refresh, so that's been a conversation. As well as some of the timing equipment that's used for swim meets and things like that. So the conversations with SCAT have been really specific towards what's a benefit for the pool, but also something that the swim team utilizes as a primary user. And those elements are definitely heavy on SCAT.
And all those would go through the regular CIP?
Yeah, typically with a donation like that, depending on where we are in the budget cycle, those are items that potentially could come to the commission in a mid-budget cycle. If the organization's going to donate all of it A to Z, I don't want to delay on accepting that kind of funding source. So we would come to the commission, request for approval of that donation, and then ultimately go to council, who would give its final blessing on that acceptance.
To follow up on his question, so would you give this gentleman a list of things that potentially he could invest in and choose from? Like
We certainly could. A lot of the CIP projects are really general maintenance, wear and tear within locker rooms or the pump room, things like that. But I'm happy to share that with the organization as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that,
I'll move that we accept the staff recommendation, and I think if within a year's time, we see that they are meeting all three requirements, I don't see a reason that it should come back to us. I think that was basically the recommendation. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's how the agreement will be struck.
Do we have to read it word for word, or is that okay? Just the same?
No, that takes it. Approved staff recommendation, I get that.
I'll second.
Discussion, actually a question for staff.
Mm-hmm.
If we give SCAT 8 lanes, do we still, in consideration of our shortage of lifeguards, do we still have enough lanes for the public?
Yeah, that is part of the art of allocating lanes. We've given 8 lanes consistently for a number of years. The formula works, and it's working now. But that's something we can look at as we negotiate this new agreement based on present circumstances. Currently, SCAT's able to practice. We still have some public lap swimming. We still have KISS swim lessons go on, and water polo does have a piece of that pie as well between both pools, between the 25-yard pool and the 50-meter pool. So it's possible. We know everybody wants more. Everybody wants that. We get that. Typically, so the commission knows, if SCAT releases a lane, it's going to go back to public lap swimming first, because they are the ones most heavily impacted in the later afternoon time. But we make it a point to make sure that everybody has some level of space at some point, as frequently as possible.
You second it?
yeah.
One other question, the second speaker that we have, is it on this issue or later in the agenda?
He is speaking to 7A. That's the pool lifeguard update.
Okay.
So we're up to 6 people.
Yeah.
I think you need a vote.
A vote.
You have a motion and a second.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, unanimous, passing. Okay, item 6B, which is the resolution amending our regular meeting location.
This is really just a housekeeping item, just meant to move us to the new City Hall location. So if this passes, it will be codified and moved into all the things, and then we will have our December meeting at the new City Hall council chambers.
Well, I understand that they now have moved council meetings. Why are they needing to move us too? I mean, is there a need that they want to have everybody meeting there?
Yeah,
It's so convenient for you guys being here at your home base.
Oh, I'm all over town.
Facility though?
Finish.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't-
Trust me, you want to
Council gave direction that they would like to move all commissions and committees there. Historically, commissions and committees have met at the chambers. They were here decades ago. Now they're at chambers. That's fine.
And I think too that we can get the visuals, not just the audio. So if somebody wants to watch a meeting or a meeting and they can't come, they can tune in and actually see it happening.
That might not be the case. So just because we're moving doesn't give video access. It will still be an audio recording. There's a lot of staff time and costs involved with a video setup that council has and planning commission. So they haven't finalized that. Right now, it's just moving the location.
I move that we change the location to the new council chambers beginning December.
And I second that.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, unanimous. Moving on to item 7A, which is our PNR director report and lifeguard update. We have the speakers. Do we want to? Okay. So Brian Haskins, come up. He was the one that gave us the spreadsheet.
You also should have received a letter from him.
Yeah, by email, I believe it was sent to our commissioners.
Go, or?
Yeah, let me, sorry. This is why I need Miley. Okay, go ahead.
I'm Brian Haskins, and my background is that I was a lifeguard on the beach here for 34 years. I was a city lifeguard for 10 years, starting in 1974, and I did another 24 years at the state beaches, mainly Calafia and San Belfry. And just coincidentally, my dad was on the board of the creation of the San Clemente Aquatics team, SCAT, and I think that was around 1973. A group of high school parents got together before there was even a pool at the high school, and there's really nowhere to swim. So I'm glad to see that they're carrying on that legacy. It's one of the best things in the city. And ignore anything I say if it has anything to do with decreasing the number of lanes that the SCAT people get, because that's one of the best things that the city has going for it. With respect to the lifeguard shortage, I'm more visual, so I gave you that handout so you can see that this is just for the folks that walk on and want to just jump in the pool and swim laps. There's very little swimming on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and it's completely closed on Sundays. And then when it is open, like tonight, it's a little misleading. It says 2 lanes, but sometimes there's an additional 2 or 3 lanes that you can reserve if you go online and reserve it. So it's just, if you want to swim afternoon, it's tough to get a lane. So kind of bottom line up front, I'd like to throw out some solutions, or basically support the solutions that I think Samantha's already implemented. The first would be in terms of recruitment. Pay now is $16.95 an hour, and I was going to recommend that you increase it to $19.15 an hour, and it sounds like that's what they're going to do already. I talked to a friend of mine, a lifeguard, and I understand his daughter is an All-American swimmer, polo player, loves the beach, and I asked him why isn't she lifeguarding, and he said they hardly pay anything. She makes $28 an hour babysitting. So, you know, she can't go to the beach and lose money. The second part of recruitment would be to kind of attack the state lifeguards, because there's an oversupply of lifeguards in the winter or the off season. In summer, there's a shortage at the beach and the pool, but in the winter, those ocean lifeguards are not getting work. So I think Samantha's trying to liaise with Rod Millat to contact the state to see if they can get those guys on board too. The second thing would be try to increase the lane ability. Those reservations where you can reserve a lane for yourself is not a very efficient use of a lane because there's only one person in the lane, whereas it's really comfortable to have 2 in a lane. And a lot of times those people that reserve it, they don't show up. So you're crammed in a lane with a bunch of other people looking at an empty lane that you can't get in because you don't know if they're late or they're not going to show up. So I would suggest you take those 3 lanes and just assign them to open lap swimming, and that way you can get more people in the pool. You might take the small pool when there's a class going on and just create 2 lanes on the side so that people can swim. And there's plenty of room for the folks that are doing hinges and the twinges and the other classes they put on. Finally, I just want to say, for me, the best thing about San Clemente is the beach. Second best thing is this Vista Hermosa pool. And anything you can do to increase the availability to us old folks that can't run anymore and have the hip and knee and back problems, we appreciate. And then finally, I really appreciate you guys approving SCAT. And I'd hate to see that 89% would be a deal breaker for something that the intent would be to keep supporting that partnership. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So, Lacey, what's the status report on these lifeguards now? Are there state lifeguard applications coming in? Are you accepting them? How many positions are available, et cetera?
So, a couple things related to the use of ocean lifeguards at pool facilities. Normally, that is not allowed underneath the California Public Health and Safety Code. You have to have an American Red Cross or YMCA certificate, depending on the license of the facility. The city holds an American Red Cross certification. So the governor on September 13th signed Assembly Bill 1672, that allows for public agencies to utilize certified ocean lifeguard staff as long as they're part of the United States Lifeguarding Association certified agency. They can come lifeguard at pools without the required American Red Cross certification. So that is something that I'm working through right now with Marine Safety as well as Human Resources to figure out how we can move some of our ocean lifeguards who exist on payroll right now and move them over to the pool. And Marine Safety right now, they go a little bit dark in the next couple of months, and they typically don't need as many of their hourly staff. And they would be afforded the opportunity to guard at the pool at their existing pay rate that they would normally get paid as ocean lifeguards. This Assembly Bill does have a 12-month timeline and time limit on it, and moving any ocean lifeguards over to the pool they would have to be primary to the ocean at the end of the day. So come this spring in our summer season, we have to return those ocean lifeguards to the beach because that safety element becomes paramount. So this is meant to be a holdover until we can find more pool lifeguards. Now, the use of other agencies' lifeguards is something that we're talking to our legal team about. There's some nuances with that are not very clear within the Assembly Bill. And we want to make sure that we're hiring people under that guidance and sticking to that, adhering to that. So right now, we're not looking to hire existing ocean lifeguards as pool lifeguards. That step hasn't come yet. We're going to dip into our existing staff and then see where we can go from there. Again, we have to look at some of the legal aspects of that. Related to pay, our ocean lifeguards are going to be we're going to be holding a tryout in November for the first time. We usually hold a tryout in February. We're moving that to November in an effort to, again, combat the national lifeguard shortage. That is, the beach is not immune to that shortage. We've seen that up and down our coastal neighbors and our other cities. Lifeguards are hard to come by even at the beach. So those lifeguards will be bumped up to $19.15 an hour to start at. However, that does not put the pool lifeguards in the same bucket. Ocean lifeguards are always paid higher historically than pool lifeguards. It's a different level of liability and a certification requirement. They're just not apples to apples. So those guards who are hired and might come over to work at the pool will get paid more than our existing pool lifeguards. Now, on the other side of that, we are, I'm working with the interim city manager to finalize, and human resources as well, a class and compensation study for our hourly staff that would allow us to take an entire look at surrounding agencies to see what everybody's paying, to make sure that we're paying competitively. That is the process that a public agency goes through. Unlike the private sector, we cannot just arbitrarily assign new pay rates to people. We have to work within a salary schedule that's adopted and approved by council. So the interim city manager has prioritized finding lifeguards at the top of his list. And it is something I speak to him regularly about, and now I'm working with Cecilia, who's acting in his absence for a couple weeks, and still working through how do we move that faster. All that being said, the position is still open. We do have head lifeguard positions, which pay more than our pool lifeguard positions. We actually have a series of lifeguards. There's pool lifeguard, safety instructor, water safety, and then a head lifeguard. So we run the gamut on pay range, and we're doing everything we can to try to boost that. And I hear, and loud and clear, it's hard to compete with what the private sector is now paying. Unfortunately, we can't move at that same pace because of the limitations within our public sector approvals. So the positions are all open. I signed a couple of new hire paperwork today, and we are hiring and recruiting and training as soon as they come in.
Do you have any kind of statistics about how we've been doing over the last few months, or where our increase has been or not?
Definitely not an increase. Over the summer, I would say we had about a 35 or 30% deficit of lifeguards operating at that. Right now, we have about 22% fewer lifeguards than what we need. Ideally, we'd like to have about 20 more people come on board that have really wide open availability. Our priority at this point is to focus on the 5 a.m. to 4 p.m. time frame. We've had a wonderful success getting high school students, and the swim team's actually been fantastic at giving us some of their swimmers because they're water safe, they know how to swim, but that does not allow us to open in the middle of the day or early morning like that's being asked. So that's the priority that we're looking to hire for at this point, and we'll be asking our ocean lifeguards to fill those shifts.
Once you hire, how long is the training period until they can get out to the pool and start working?
So a new lifeguard that's uncertified, that's being hired as a pool lifeguard, they have to go through an academy. It's done in-house by my staff, and it takes a weekend. It's 3 days. It's kind of a couple hours on a Friday, and then a Saturday and a Sunday, and then they're ready to go. We've never done this before, but now we are paying to train them. You previously had to pay to go get your own certification, and it was a couple $100s. We're doing that in-house, and then we're paying them to do that as well. So the hiring process itself can take anywhere from 3 to up to 6 weeks. It does depend on how quickly the candidate goes through their background and their onboarding process, and they do need to have physicals and a fingerprinting, and there's some boxes they need to check. So.
So what would you tell Mr. Haskins to advise the state lifeguards to do? Should they apply now and wait until you're gone through your list of city ocean guards? Or?
Yeah, there's nothing for them to apply for at this point, unless they'd like to apply to be an ocean lifeguard with the city. Again, I think it's too soon to determine if somebody's interested, which avenue for them to go down. But they are welcome to come try out for our ocean lifeguard program. It's a couple weeks into November, that date.
I was just going to ask you, I'm forgetting what I was going to ask you. You remember mine, please. Okay.
Am I allowed to speak, or am I
No. Unfortunately.
So the main focus of when you're looking at the schedule of things, what you're trying to increase lane usage or lane availability, or how much you can open up in the existing afternoons that you're now open. Is that what the
Correct.
first is?
We'd like to start opening earlier in the day. That would allow for more public lap swimming immediately. Public lap swimming has definitely been hit significantly. And I'm well aware of that. So we've put as many groups as we can into the pool, and there is a priority scheduling system that staff use. We've used it for many, many years. Priority is always first and foremost city classes, public lap swimming, that's how we schedule. And then next comes our senior partners, so that would be someone like SCAT, followed by any junior partners, which we don't currently have, followed by frequent renters. And right now that, there's not too many groups in that, but water polo, the club is working into that. And the high school doesn't have a partnership status, but we work them in when we can, as the schedule allows for the spaces there.
I remember what I was going to say. I was going to ask is if you do get in sort of a blessing for the ocean lifeguards to come in and sort of fill these gaps, will that you also be giving them the opportunity or asking them to take the American Red Cross training so that in the future that they can sort of seamlessly move back and forth between these two positions?
Yeah, we haven't really gotten to that point yet. We have some other questions that we're waiting to hear from legal. As I said, the Assembly bill, not really clear on some things. It leaves some ambiguity within it. I can say though, it does require, even if we open the pools and with ocean lifeguards, I still have to have a certified American Red Cross person there. So it does have that caveat in it. And just for safety purposes, we would need to train some of the ocean lifeguards on our emergency action plans, just to make sure if something happens that they know how to backboard out of a pool. It's a little different, not to say that they can't do it, but there's just some general things we would want to make them aware of.
Well, even at the, I'm sorry, Jimmy, even at the Ole Hansen pool, I lap swim there, and frequently I will have at least one person in my lane, and then usually a couple exercisers. So it's this whole zigzag of crisscrossing, and we leave it up to the exercisers to be able to move out of our way with our laps, because I'm doing my backstroke and I don't want to clobber anybody and vice versa. And it's really worked out really well. Nobody's been injured.
I guess that is one question I had, is that was brought up. When people do reserve a lane, do they get that lane in theory for just themselves?
For just themselves, yeah. It does get released, though. It's supposed to get released if it's not filled. That requires some staff monitoring, and my staff do their best, but oftentimes they're sitting on a lifeguard tower. The beach club has come up with kind of a system where you might reserve a lane, and maybe your wife comes along and she pays the drop-in fee, and you're both in the lane. Our reservation software is a little cumbersome to allow two people to reserve the same lane, so there's that challenge. And this commission, I think this commission reviewed the lap swim reservations previously to keep it as is. Now that said, we are finalizing our winter schedule, and if things are not going to shake out to be any better than they currently are, we'll look at the reservation system at the facilities. We did scale back the number of reservations at the beach club, so it's not all the lanes anymore. And that was met with mixed feelings from different members of the public as well.
But I found that everybody's really accountable to doing it. I mean, I haven't seen anybody scream or yell or rant or rave or anything. And it's no problem at the small,
Yeah.
That's the good news.
Yeah, that's good news, yeah. Very important.
Yeah, all right, we're going to move on.
Can I ask another question of Samantha? Brian, our speaker, has presented this chart. Did you get a chance to look at it?
Yes,
See
I'm
if this is
familiar with
accurate?
Yeah, that's as it stands today. As he said, sometimes we'll be able to release a couple more lanes to the public, but that is correct.
And then looking at, say, like Monday morning, 6 lanes are open from 6:30 to 7, but 10 lanes are open from 7 to 7:30. How many lifeguards do you need how many lifeguards are assigned per lane? I'm wondering.
That depends on, that's kind of a number of factors. Depends on the pool. So the aquatic center needs a minimum of 3 staff to operate the entire facility. The beach club requires 2, which is why you'll see the beach club is open on Tuesdays and Thursdays, because I needed 1 more staff and didn't have it. Staffing the pool is a combination of the ability to rotate guards through their towers, but also it's the bather load. So we need 1 lifeguard for every 25 people. And so the aquatic center just requires that third person, and that's been hard to come by. Mhm.
Close 7 and move on to item 8. These are our subcommittee reports. So the first one is coastal items. The subcommittee is myself, Susan, Ambrose, and Maria. So I can give a quick update about what we've done. So when we had our joint city meeting, and that was on August 30th, myself, our subcommittee met with Mayor Jean James, Mayor Town, Chris Duncan, City Manager Eric Sund, and Samantha Wiley, and we talked about a couple of things. So I shared my coastal resiliency plan with them, and then we also talked about the clean ocean fee and whether that could be used as potential revenue for coastal resiliency in the future. And Eric Sund indicated that there needed to be a residence poll that had to be conducted to sort of see if there was an appetite for an increase to that fee. And he had said that he was going to do that before he left, and I don't think he did. So we need to follow up with the new city manager about that. And then there's also the general feeling that the city, there might not be an appetite from city residents to increase their fee just because of inflation and you know, no one wants to be taxed more. So,
And sewer fees were going up.
yes, and sewer fees were going up. So, then they also said that the city doesn't have any identified funds for a feasibility study, which is kind of one of the ideas which we need sort of, you know, we're bringing sand back to our beaches, but we want to do this in-water feasibility study for sand retention structures. And so there's no identified funds for that at this point. So that was a little disappointing, but and then we also talked about Kyle Coker, and he, I guess, was with the city of Oceanside. Correct. And he was involved in their city getting together a feasibility study, and they're sort of, you know, maybe 1 or 2 years ahead of us, because that's already been published. And they have ideas of what they want to do for their beaches. And we really need to have that in place so that we are able to get grant funding in the future and help retain the sand that we are going to start placing in our beaches. So we would probably perhaps meet with him too in the next month or so.
Well, Kyle gave us one presentation, but he had many more ideas for Oceanside. San Clemente kind of funneled into one, so I just wondered what his other ideas were in Oceanside.
Well, also, in terms of timing, at the city council was announced that the city manager was taking a 1-month vacation.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure when that starts. Samantha, do you know when that starts? Or city manager going on vacation?
He is currently on vacation.
And he's returning?
First week of November, I think, or second week. Cecilia is the acting city manager currently.
Okay. Well, my recommendation would be, in his absence, I just want to gather some information that could meet with Cecilia, since she's got such excellent background in these grants and social resiliency and all the things that you're talking about. You want to wait till November, at least we get a start chance. If you want to wait till he comes back, then that's fine too, but just letting you know he won't be available.
Yeah, probably Cecilia and Kyle would too. I think would be good.
I think Kyle would be very key also.
Yeah, okay. And that's all I have on that. And then anyone have an update on donations and sponsorships?
Oh, wait a minute, I have comments.
Oh,
My name is, I'm talking about, I'm gonna hurry here because of the time. One of my coastal items is, I do this every year, and in the Coastal Advisory Committee, we did it every year as well. The California Coastal Commission sends out these flyers for student contests. And there's 2 awesome ones right now going on. It started in October. One's Coastal Art and a Poetry Contest for K through 12th grade, and the other one is the Climate Video Challenge, which starts October and ends May 31st. And the wonderful thing, you can see one of the pictures up there, done by a young girl. You see that wave, and on the tip of the wave is a whole bunch of trash that she colored in there, that she drew in there. And the beauty of this is when they advertise this, and do you have this in your packet?
They've all received it by email.
Okay, thank you very much. You will have various places to click, and you can look in, and so there's let me go through this thing here. Here's questions, for example, on the video. So, do you accept the challenge and why? What is your vision for a thriving future? Now remember, these are junior high and high school students. Do you accept the challenge? First, create your vision for a thriving future. And you click on all of these tab little arrows. Let me show you. So when you get your thing online, you'll see if you click on all of these, it gives you good examples and summaries that identify things. For example, what do you mean by climate change? There's a great page and a half on what climate change is and all the examples, etc. And so it's very fruitful and informative. Also, the kids can work together. So if they're doing a video, there can be 2, 3, 4 of them. They can ask for teacher assistance. Teachers might do their own lessons based on what they're doing, etc. to help them hone up their skills. And it's just a wonderful, fabulous opportunity for kids to get involved. And I believe, and I can tell you that 2 people received top honors in this contest while we were on Coastal Advisory Committee. The first one might not have been under your tenure. He might have been right before you came. But one was an elementary student, and he won in the Coastal Art and Poetry Contest from San Committee. And he was not only congratulated and highlighted by the City Council, he also received a kind of a certification plaque. And the second one was just last year at the City Council. A young lady was honored for winning, and she was a high school student here in San Clemente. And again, they featured her video in the City Council. They played it, and they gave her affirmation and my certification as well. So it means a lot to them. They learned a lot, and along the way, their scope of seeing the environment in a different way really is woken up. And the teachers too, and the students that they're working with is also, because they're used to seeing the beaches, and so this widens their perspective a whole lot. So please, look at the things that were sent emailed to you kindly by Samantha for me, and if you have any questions, feel free to call. And you might say, well, why is the Coastal Commission doing this? Well, the Coastal Commission has been doing this since the Coastal Act, like 50 years ago, since 1972. They want to that's what their job is, to inform, educate, conserve, preserve, etc. And so this is one of the strategies that they can do that and teach people who are coming up from kindergarten better ways to do that.
You want to call the word?
Next. Yeah, I mean.
Oh, well, I have the other question. The other thing that I was sharing was the OCTA authorizing emergency track service stabilization.
And we all got that.
They have that, and then there's hard copies here as well. If you
Right.
wish.
Yeah.
So what I would just say is that, like, for these type of items, what we were trying to do just to sort of condense time was share those through email, and if there was any questions on it, then you can bring that up at the meeting, because it wasn't really an agendized item or something we're working on, we're just sort of sharing it for information.
Well, it is on, all of these are related to our work plan, and I verified
But
that.
it's not under
So,
AA.
I think point.
No, the topic wasn't under, that didn't get put there. We put coastal items because we weren't exactly sure when this information would come out. This came out in this week's SC Times. So, at any rate, you have the link, and that should do you well. And just as you gave your report, I'm giving mine. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Our next subcommittee report, donations and sponsorship.
Yeah, let me just start and then see if Jennifer wants to add anything. Jennifer and Terry and I had a very initial kind of organizing meeting to talk about each of us share kind of what we thought we wanted to get out of this and how we wanted to make sure this group contributes. And there were 2 things that I took out of it. One was, even at the time, this was now maybe a sure that we know what their expectation from us is, and make sure we aren't, again, kind of doing something that they would want to do in terms of approaching the company or anybody else for a donation. So, and even to get their input, even as we kind of start this process, to say, where's the line for us to kind of take, what you want to do, or what you think we should stay out on. So that was kind of what I took out of what we talked about.
There was one thing I would add, we talked about Wishbook, and I didn't know this before our meeting, but Samantha, it sounds like there is another 501c3.
That's not correct.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. The city has a fund that's called Wishbook that, it's not a 501c3, it's a city fund, but it's not part of the general fund. It's a fund that allows for donations to come in, and it's been established for a very long time, and it really was the start of from a scholarship fund. So anytime the Friends make a donation, that donation goes into the Wishbook account. So we are able to take in money, revenue, and then expend it from that fund as well. The general fund doesn't work like that. So that is not a 501c3 fund.
Is they considered just another fund of the city?
Yeah, I don't know what the correct terminology would be, but it's not part of the general fund. And it's really intended for funds to go to specific projects that the general fund goes away at the end of every year. If you don't spend that money that's been budgeted, it goes away. Where Wishbook, it's going to stay in that pot. So maybe it's for beach concerts. It's going to stay in beach concert fund until it's spent for another beach concert or some type of equipment or something.
All right, anyone else? Okay. Next is items from commissioners, so Fair Play Foundation.
Yeah, I do have some things to report here. October is Peer Pride Month, so there was a number of activities during the month of October. Actually, it started in September with a sunset dinner, 5-course meal, music, silent auction. That was full. All the tickets were sold. It was at the close to the pier.
Fisherman's.
Fisherman's, yeah. October 2nd was the pier jumping. There was about a dozen people who participated in that. That was another fundraising effort. That was like $1,000 per person or $1,500 per couple. The mayor was one of the jumpers, as well as our own Jennifer Elliott was one of the jumpers. Jumped off a perfectly good, sturdy pier into the cool water. So that was, about a dozen people participated in that. October 4th was the reopening of the Snack Shack. That was an event with about 50, 60 people there, and there was a number of people from different government organizations, from the State Assembly, State Senate, county, city, and then the Chamber of Commerce, probably about 10 people all presenting plaques to the person who got the contract for the Snack Shack. It was nice, it was very nice. Actually, Jennifer also got called into duty as the mayor since the event conflicted with the city council meeting. Did very good job.
So many similarities we have.
The height.
And the last event is this Thursday is a Light the Future of a Pier event at Casa Romantica. That's an event to thank the sponsors for contributing to Pier Pride. And just a reminder that the Pier Pride project for 2022 and 23 is improvements at what they call the Crossroads, which is the base of the pier as it connects to the beach trail. And that will include expanded bicycle parking area, relocation. They're actually changing that RBSP shack that's at the base of the pier, better storm drainage, and some better wayfinding signage.
Question about that, is that something that they're developing a design and plan for, what they would like to have, and then how does that?
Yeah, I think they pretty much know what they like to have. Next step is to get a cost estimate for it.
Then does that go to us or city council for approval?
It will go to, the design will probably go to city council for approval before it's executed.
Because they've already discussed design.
Yes, it's an approved CIP program. but the design of it was never formalized or approved.
I don't know that they really had a specific design.
No, not quite. It's something that I'm working with Pure Pride on.
Yeah.
That's my project with
I
them.
would like to add, as part of the Pure Pride dinner, so Bob Navala, the manager at Fisherman's, donated all the food. Martin Ray donated all the wine, so that was a pure profit, at roughly $150 a ticket, and I can't do the math. But the city gave, or the city, Fisherman's gave back to Pure Pride.
Well, but it's in his interest.
I'm sorry?
I said it's in Mr. Novello's interest to keep that pure up because he does.
It actually is, but it was quite a cost to be able to do it. I want to say there was about 75 of us present, so.
All right, next is our proposed agenda items for our next meeting in December. I know we mentioned one was putting someone on our Friends of San Clemente.
Yep.
Anyone else have anything to add?
I would like to bring up a topic, and not specifically of whether it needs to go on in December, it could go on in the future. But, and that we got the new work plan, and I noticed that wasn't something we really discussed today, but I just stated that, okay, those are the types of things that we need to be working on throughout the year. And when we go back to the meeting that we had, our last meeting, when we had kind of brought up all the various things we would like to have on the work plan, and then most all of those are all part of the work plan. There's one that did get brought up, and that was having to deal with us taking a look at more off-leash dog opportunities at our parks. And I know that in the work plan, there is the overall master plan of the parks, and within that master plan, there are already a number of things that we have outlined. But as we know, with us taking in, our focus is going on Steve now, and how much effort that is going to take, and also financial improvement. It's going to take quite a while before we even get past that first piece, before we then are able to get into some of the others. So that kind of dovetailed back into when the commission, about a year and a half ago, had the issue about possibly allowing dog access to the beach, and decided to deny that, or not to recommend that to City Council. But it was at that time stated, hey, well, we should look at other opportunities of being able to give something more as far as opportunities for off-leash in some of our parks. So it was stated something that we needed to work on at that point. So I just would like to see if, besides waiting for the master plan to work out, if we could take a look at it, if there's any other opportunities of us, maybe by, not as much of a major capital outlay, but there would be some cost, but the possibility of doing something in some of our parks prior to our big master plan of rolling out all the things to be able to do something more than the one opportunity we now have for people with dogs. So we can look at its feasibility of opportunities.
I don't know that that's an appropriate agenda item. I'm happy to give you background to put you in kind of the mindset of where we're at with it. I can give you some more detail on that, of where we're at. There's a bigger process to that, and I can't speak it to it tonight because it's not on the agenda. But why don't you and I talk through that a little bit?
I have a suggested agenda item. I use the beach trail a lot, as I'm sure many of us do, and e-bikes are still a problem. Can we put it on a future agenda to have more days of monitoring and sighting to make the beach trail safer?
Can I address that? At City Council,
Yeah.
there was a presentation by a company from the e-Power Bikes. So I actually went to talk to them, and they're actually going to do a safety training course scheduled for November 16th. And instead of having beaches and parks handle it, even though it affects the trails, Samantha got involved and we moved it over to which commission, the safety?
So all e-bike stuff is being handled by the Public Safety Committee, so it's not in the purview of this commission anymore. Other than if there's, the bike safety rodeo as a recreation activity, and any classes that might come up, but it's not within this purview.
That includes the beach trail.
That's correct.
But I'm just trying to give you hope. There is someone working on it.
Anyone else? I have an idea about, I don't know if they would come present, or maybe Kyle could maybe come and talk a little bit about their process and what they're doing as far as their feasibility study. I think would be interesting, just to sort of see what their process is and then we could, maybe look to what they're doing.
I might suggest that that is something you schedule with your coastal subcommittee first,
Okay.
and then you can report back to the group. If that works.